Dr. Vextan's claws clicked against the metal surface as he moved around the examination table. The bright lights of the medical bay cast long shadows across the room. He had been studying alien life forms for over 20 cycles, but this specimen was different from anything he had encountered before. The human lay still on the cold table, thick metal restraints holding his arms and legs in place. His name was Lieutenant Kim Tell, according to the identification found on his damaged ship. The patrol vessels had found him drifting near the edge of known space, his small exploration craft badly damaged and running out of power. It had been easy to bring him aboard their research vessel. "Look at these readings," Dr. Molken said, his 3 eyes fixed on the scanning device. The assistant's voice carried a note of surprise. "The bone structure is much denser than we expected, and the muscle tissue shows unusual fiber patterns." Dr. Vextan nodded as he studied the data streaming across his screens. Their initial information about humans had been limited, gathered from long-range observations and intercepted communications. Most of it suggested they were a relatively weak species, soft and fragile compared to the other races in the galaxy. But these scans told a different story. "The preliminary data was wrong," Vextan muttered. "This being is built for survival in ways we did not understand." The human's chest rose and fell with steady breathing. His skin had a healthy color, and despite being unconscious for several hours, his vital signs remained strong and stable. There were no signs of the usual stress responses they saw in captured specimens from other worlds. Dr. Molken adjusted another scanner and frowned. "The brain activity is also unusual, even unconscious. There are patterns we have never seen before. It is as if the mind is still working, still aware on some level, as if responding to their conversation." Kim's eyelids began to flutter. Dr. Vextan stepped back, his hand moving to the emergency alert button. They had learned to be careful when specimens regained consciousness. Some species became violent when they woke up in strange places. Kim's eyes opened slowly, revealing dark brown irises that seemed to absorb the bright medical lights. He did not jerk or struggle against the restraints like most captured beings did. Instead, he turned his head carefully from side to side, taking in every detail of the room with calm precision. His gaze moved from the scanning equipment to the observation windows, then to each of the researchers in turn. Dr. Vextan felt uncomfortable under that steady stare. There was no panic in those eyes, no fear or confusion, only a cold, calculating intelligence that seemed to be measuring everything and everyone in the room. "Can you understand us?" Dr. Vextan asked, speaking into the universal translator device. The machine hummed as it converted his words into what their computers believed was the human's language. Kim said nothing. He continued his careful examination of the room, his eyes lingering on the door controls and the various pieces of equipment. Dr. Vextan noticed the human's pupils were adjusting quickly to the light, and his breathing had become even more controlled. "We mean you no harm," Dr. Molken tried, stepping closer to the table. "We are researchers. We only want to learn about your species." Still no response. Kim's eyes found the assistant and studied him for a long moment. There was something in that look that made Dr. Molken take a step backward. It was not hatred or anger, but something colder and more dangerous. It was the look of a predator studying its surroundings. Dr. Vextan tried several more questions, using different tones and approaches. He asked about Kim's homeworld, his ship, his mission. The human listened to each question, but gave no answers. His silence was not the silence of fear or confusion. It was deliberate and controlled. "This is not working," Dr. Molken whispered. "Perhaps we should try a different approach." Dr. Vextan considered their options. They had protocols for dealing with uncooperative specimens, methods that had worked successfully across dozens of different species. He reached into a storage compartment and pulled out a small glass vial filled with pale green liquid. "Kepler moss extract," he said, holding up the vial so his assistant could see it. "We have used this compound on every species we have studied. It creates a calm, peaceful state of mind. The subject becomes cooperative and willing to answer questions. The extract came from a plant found on several worlds throughout the galaxy. When processed correctly, it produced a powerful but harmless sedative effect. Beings under its influence became docile and relaxed, making the research process much easier for everyone involved. Dr. Moulkin nodded his approval. It has never failed to work. Even the most aggressive species become peaceful within minutes of injection. As they prepared the injection device, Dr. Vextan noticed something that made his scales prickle with unease. Kim was watching them work, but his expression had not changed. There was still no fear in his eyes, no concern about what they were planning to do. If anything, he seemed more alert now, his dark eyes tracking their every movement with intense focus. Most specimens showed some reaction when they saw medical equipment being prepared. They would struggle against their restraints or cry out, or at least show signs of stress. But this human remained perfectly still, perfectly calm, as if he was simply observing an interesting scientific experiment. Dr. Vextan loaded the pale green liquid into the injection device, his hands trembling slightly. Something about the human's complete lack of fear was deeply disturbing. It suggested a level of confidence or knowledge that they did not understand. The needle slid into Kim's arm with practiced ease. Dr. Vextan pushed the pale green liquid into the human's bloodstream and stepped back to wait for the usual peaceful effects to begin. In his many years of research, this moment was always the same. The subject would relax, their breathing would slow, and within minutes they would become calm and cooperative. But something was wrong from the very first second. The injection site began to change color immediately. What should have been a tiny red mark from the needle became a spreading patch of angry redness across Kim's skin. Dr. Vextan blinked and looked again, certain his old eyes were playing tricks on him. "Moulkin, look at this," he called his assistant. "The reaction is not normal." Dr. Moulkin hurried over with a scanning device, the readings making him gasp in surprise. The compound is not being absorbed the way it should be. His body seems to be fighting against it, instead of the expected drowsiness. Kim's body was doing the opposite of what the Kepler moss extract was supposed to cause. His dark eyes, which had been alert before, now became even more focused. The pupils grew larger, making his gaze more intense than before. "Check his vital signs again," Dr. Vextan ordered, his voice starting to shake. Something was happening that had never happened before in all his years of research. The monitoring equipment began beeping faster and faster. Dr. Moulkin's 3 eyes widened as he read the numbers. His heart rate is climbing rapidly. It was normal a moment ago, but now it is beating much too fast. Dr. Vextan looked at his own instruments and felt his scales grow cold with fear. The human's heart was beating at a rate that should have killed any living being. Yet Kim showed no signs of distress. If anything, he looked more awake and aware than ever. "Body temperature is rising as well," Dr. Moulkin reported, his voice getting higher with worry. "It should be dropping as the sedative takes effect, but it is climbing to dangerous levels instead." Kim's breathing changed in ways that confused both researchers. Instead of becoming slow and shallow like a drug patient, his breathing became deep and steady. Each breath seemed to be filling his lungs completely, as if his body was preparing for some kind of physical effort. "This should be impossible," Dr. Vextan whispered, staring at the readings that made no sense. "The Kepler moss extract works on every known form of life in the galaxy. It calms the mind and relaxes the body. It cannot cause this kind of reaction." But the evidence was right in front of them. Not only was Kim not becoming calm, he was becoming something that frightened both aliens more than they wanted to admit. His muscles, which had been relaxed against the restraints, began to grow tight and hard. They could see the change happening under his skin as every muscle fiber seemed to come alive with new strength. The restraints that held Kim to the examination table were made of the strongest materials available. They were designed to hold beings much larger and more powerful than humans were supposed to be. The research team had used them successfully on creatures twice Kim's size without any problems. Now those same restraints began to make small creaking sounds as Kim's body pressed against them. Dr. Vextan could see the metal starting to bend slightly under forces that should not have existed. "He is not trying to break free," Dr. Moulkin observed with growing terror. "This is just his body reacting to the compound. He is not even trying to escape yet." Kim's eyes moved constantly now, tracking every sound and movement in the room with the kind of attention that made both researchers feel like prey animals. There was something different about the way he watched them now. Before the injection, His gaze had been intelligent and calculating. Now it was something much more dangerous. A new sound began to fill the medical bay, low and rhythmic like a drum beating in the distance. Dr. Vextan looked around for the source, checking all his equipment to see what might be malfunctioning. The sound grew louder and more steady, echoing off the metal walls. "What is that noise?" he asked Dr. Molcan, who was also looking around in confusion. It took several long moments before the horrible truth dawned on them both. The sound was coming from Kim himself. His heart was now beating so powerfully that they could hear it through his chest, through his clothes, and across the room. It was like listening to an engine running at full power. "That is not possible," Dr. Molcan stammered. "No heart should be that strong." The first restraint broke with a sharp metallic crack that echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. The thick metal band that had been holding Kim's left wrist simply snapped apart under the pressure. His arm came free, and for the first time since the injection, Kim moved. He flexed his fingers slowly, studying his own hand as if seeing it for the first time. The movement was controlled and deliberate, showing no sign of confusion or weakness that the drug should have caused. Dr. Molcan's trembling hand reached for the emergency alert button on the wall. The bright red button would seal the medical bay and call for immediate help from the ship's security forces. But as his finger touched the button, both researchers realized with growing horror that their security measures had been designed to contain normal beings. Kim was no longer normal, if he ever had been. The medical bay door slid open with a soft hiss, and Kim stepped into the corridor beyond. The emergency alarms were screaming throughout the ship, red lights flashing in every direction. But Kim moved through the chaos like he belonged there, his steps steady and purposeful. The remaining restraints had broken one by one after the first one snapped. Each metal band had given way under forces that the research team could not understand. Kim had not struggled or fought against them. His body had simply grown stronger until bonds could no longer hold him. Now he walked through the research vessel with movements that seemed too fast and too controlled. His enhanced reflexes made every step look effortless. But Dr. Vextan could see through the security cameras that Kim was processing information at an incredible rate. His head turned slightly at every sound, his eyes noting every detail of the ship's layout. The first security drone rounded the corner 3 minutes after Kim left the medical bay. It was a standard patrol unit, designed to handle problems with research specimens. The drone was twice Kim's height and built like a moving wall of armor and weapons. It had successfully contained dozens of different alien species over the years. Kim looked at the approaching drone with the same calm expression he had worn on the examination table. He did not run or try to hide. Instead, he picked up a piece of broken equipment from a nearby maintenance cart and held it in his hand like it weighed nothing. The security drone fired its stun weapon, a blue energy blast that should have dropped any living being instantly. Kim moved sideways faster than the targeting system could track. The energy bolt hit the wall where he had been standing a split second before. What happened next made Dr. Vextan question everything he thought he knew about physics and biology. Kim threw the piece of equipment at the drone with such force that it punched through the machine's armor plating. The drone staggered backward, sparks flying from the hole in its chest. Before the security system could react, Kim had closed the distance between himself and the damaged drone. He pulled components from the machine's interior with his bare hands, tearing through metal and circuitry like it was made of soft clay. Within seconds, the drone was nothing but scattered parts on the floor. "Send more units," Dr. Vextan ordered from the SEAL Command Center. His voice was shaking as he watched Kim examine the drone's weapon system. The humans seemed to understand how it worked just by looking at it. 2 more security drones appeared at the far end of the corridor. These were heavier models, built to handle the largest and most dangerous specimens. They moved together in a coordinated attack pattern that had never failed before. Kim picked up the weapon from the first drone and turned it around in his hands. He had never seen this type of technology before, yet somehow he figured out how to activate it in less than 10 seconds. The blue energy blast he fired was more accurate than the drones had been, striking the first heavy unit directly in its sensor array. The blinded drone crashed into the wall while its partner tried to get a clear shot. But Kim was no longer where the targeting computer expected him to be. He moved through the corridor using the walls and ceiling, his enhanced strength letting him grip surfaces that should not have supported his weight. Dr. Molkin watched the security feeds with growing horror. "Look at his movements," he whispered to Dr. Vextan. "He is learning the ship's layout as he goes. Every corridor, every door, every system. He is mapping everything in his mind." The second heavy drone fell apart under an attack that combined salvaged drone weapons with pieces of the ship's own structure. Kim had somehow turned a section of wall paneling into a lever that let him tear the machine apart from the inside. But the truly terrifying part was not his physical capabilities. It was how quickly he was learning. Each security measure they threw at him only taught him more about their technology. Every weapon he encountered became a tool he could use better than its original designers. Kim reached the communications array 15 minutes after breaking free from the medical bay. The complex panel of controls and displays should have been impossible for an alien to understand. Their technology was based on principles that took years of study to master. Dr. Vextan watched in disbelief as Kim stood before the communications console and simply stared at it. His eyes moved across the different controls, studying patterns and connections. His enhanced brain was processing information faster than their computers could track. "This cannot be happening," Dr. Vextan said. But even as he spoke, Kim's hands began moving across the control panel. He pressed buttons and adjusted settings with growing confidence, as if he was remembering how to use equipment he had known all his life. The communications array began shutting down piece by piece. Kim was not randomly destroying it. He was carefully disabling specific functions while leaving others active. Within minutes, their ability to call for help was gone, but the internal ship systems remained online. Dr. Molkin looked at his readings and felt his blood grow cold. His brain activity has not decreased at all since the injection. If anything, it has increased. The Kepler moss was supposed to slow down his thoughts, but instead it has made his mind work faster. The ship's lights flickered as Kim gained access to the main computer systems. He had somehow learned to interface with their technology using nothing but observation and intuition. It was as if his enhanced mind could see patterns and connections that normally took advanced training to understand. He is not destroying the ship, Dr. Vextan realized with growing terror. He is taking control of it. The emergency beacon pierced through space, carrying Dr. Vextan's desperate message across the galaxy. His hands shook as he recorded the transmission, trying to find words to explain what was happening aboard their research vessel. In all his years of scientific work, he had never faced anything like this. "Galactic Council emergency response." He spoke into the communicator, his voice cracking with fear. "This is Research Vessel Harmony's Edge requesting immediate military assistance. We have a situation that requires urgent intervention." The response came faster than he expected. The holographic image of Council Prime Jexlar appeared in the command center, his ancient features showing concern and confusion. Behind him, other council members gathered, their various alien forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. "Dr. Vextan, explain your emergency," Council Prime Jexlar commanded. "Your message was unclear. What kind of situation requires military intervention on a research vessel?" Dr. Vextan looked around the command center, where he and his team had locked themselves. Through the security monitors, they could see Kim moving through the ship with terrifying purpose. He had taken control of most of their systems and seemed to be studying their technology with inhuman speed. "We captured a human specimen for routine biological study," Dr. Vextan began, trying to keep his voice steady. "We followed all standard protocols. We used the usual pacification compound that has worked successfully on every species we have encountered. And," Council Prime Jexlar prompted, his patience wearing thin, "the compound did not work as expected." Dr. Vextan continued. "Instead of becoming docile and cooperative, the human became enhanced, stronger, faster, and more intelligent than should be possible. He has broken free from our containment and taken control of our ship." The council members exchanged glances, their expressions showing disbelief. Dr. Molkin stepped forward to support his colleague's report. The being has disabled our security systems and learned to operate our technology in ways that should take years of training, Dr. Molkin added. He appears to be studying our ship and our capabilities with the goal of complete control. Council Prime Jexlar leaned forward in his chair. This sounds highly unlikely, Dr. Vextan. Perhaps you should reconsider your assessment of the situation. Before Dr. Vextan could respond, another council member spoke up. Prime, perhaps we should contact the human homeworld directly. If their species has unexpected capabilities, they would know about them. The suggestion sent a chill through Dr. Vextan's body. Contacting Earth would mean admitting they had captured one of their people without permission. It would mean explaining that their research methods had somehow turned a peaceful specimen into what appeared to be a weapon. Do it, Council Prime Jexlar ordered. Open a channel to Earth Command immediately. The wait for Earth's response felt like hours, though it was only minutes. When the communication link finally connected, the face that appeared on their screens was not what Dr. Vextan had expected. Commander Park Hygiene was a human woman with sharp eyes and a stern expression that reminded him uncomfortably of Kim's calculating gaze. "This is Earth Command," Commander Park said, her voice carrying authority that made even the Galactic Council members pay attention. "We received your emergency transmission. You mentioned that you are holding one of our people." Dr. Vextan swallowed hard before speaking. "Commander, we captured Lieutenant Kim Teho during a routine scientific survey. We administered a standard pacification compound used successfully across dozens of species, but the results were unexpected." Commander Park's expression grew very cold, and Dr. Vextan noticed that her hands had formed tight fists. "What exactly did you give him?" she asked, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Kepler moss extract," Dr. Molkin answered quickly. "It is a harmless sedative that creates a peaceful, cooperative state of mind. We have used it on every species we study." The silence that followed was more frightening than any scream could have been. Commander Park stared at them through the communication link with an expression of disbelief and barely contained fury. "You gave him what?" she finally said, her voice rising. "Do you have any understanding of human biology? Any knowledge of how our bodies react to foreign compounds?" Dr. Vextan tried to respond, but Commander Park continued before he could speak. "Let me explain something to you about humans," she said, her words coming fast and sharp like weapons. "We evolved in a world that tried to kill us every single day. Our bodies develop chemical responses to danger that you clearly do not understand. The Universal Translator was working overtime, trying to convert Earth Command's technical explanations into concepts the aliens could grasp. Dr. Vextan heard words like adrenaline, fight-or-flight response, and evolutionary survival mechanisms, but the full meaning was almost too complex to follow. When a human faces extreme danger or stress, Commander Park explained, our bodies release chemicals that make us faster, stronger, and more alert. These responses developed over millions of years of surviving impossible situations. Your compound did not calm Lieutenant Kim down. It convinced his body that he was in mortal danger. Dr. Molkin looked at his readings from Kim's injection and felt his understanding of the situation change completely. "You mean we did not drug him?" he whispered. "We activated his survival instincts." "You did much more than that," Commander Park replied coldly. "You triggered every combat enhancement that evolution built into the human body. You turned them into exactly what nature designed humans to become when everything else tries to kill them." The research team stared at each other in growing horror as the implications became clear. They had not captured a weak specimen for study. They had awakened something that millions of years of evolution had specifically created to survive anything the universe could do to it. "Lieutenant Kim is not malfunctioning," Commander Park continued. "He is working exactly as designed. And now you understand why humans have survived long enough to reach the stars. Kim found them exactly where he expected them to be. Dr. Vextan and his research team had locked themselves in the medical bay, the same room where this whole situation had started hours earlier. Their emergency beacon was flashing red, broadcasting a surrender signal that any nearby ships could detect. The door opened at Kim's approach, his newfound understanding of their technology making their security systems useless. He stepped into the room slowly, his movements controlled and deliberate. The Kepler moss extract had mostly worked its way out his bloodstream, but the mental clarity it had accidentally given him remained sharp and focused. Dr. Vextan pressed himself against the far wall, his scales pale with fear. Dr. Mokan and the other researchers huddled behind scanning equipment, their 3 eyes wide with terror. They had spent their careers studying dangerous alien life forms, but none of them had ever been on the receiving end of that kind of attention. "You were studying me," Kim said quietly, his voice carrying a tone that made the aliens flinch. There was no anger in his words, which somehow made them more frightening than shouting would have been. "You wanted to learn about humans. You wanted to understand what we are and how we work." He gestured around the medical bay, pointing at the broken restraints still hanging from the examination table. Pieces of destroyed security drones littered the corridors beyond the door, evidence of his path through the ship. "Now let me teach you something about my species," Kim continued, stepping closer to the trembling research team. "We do not just survive the things that should kill us. We learn from them. We adapt to them. We become stronger because of them." Dr. Vextan found his voice, though it shook as he spoke. "Please, Lieutenant Kim, we meant no harm to you or your people. We were only following our standard research protocols. We study all new species we encounter. It is what we do." Kim looked at him with the same calculating expression he had worn on the examination table before the injection that had changed everything. "Your research protocols assume that all species react the same way to the same treatments. That assumption nearly killed me. More importantly, it taught me things about your people that you probably did not want me to know." He pointed to the scanning equipment around the room. "I learned how your technology works by watching you use it. I learned how your ship operates by taking it apart and putting it back together. I learned how your weapons function by turning them against your own security systems." Dr. Mokan stammered from behind his hiding place. "But that should be impossible. Our technology is based on principles that take years to understand. No alien has ever been able to use our systems without extensive training." "That is your second wrong assumption," Kim replied calmly. "You assume that other species learn the same way you do. Humans learn differently. We learn by doing, by adapting, by surviving situations that would kill others. When you put that drug into my system, you did not make me docile. You made my brain work faster and better than it ever had before." He walked over to one of their communication devices and activated it with casual ease. The complex alien interface responded to his touch as if he had been using it his whole life. "I am going to contact your Galactic Council now. You are going to help me explain some new facts about humanity." Dr. Vextan stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear for a moment. "What facts? What do you want us to tell them?" Kim turned to face him directly, and Dr. Vextan immediately regretted asking the question. There was something in the human's dark eyes that spoke of vast depths of knowledge and capability that the research team had never imagined. "You're going to tell them that humanity is not a species to be captured and studied like laboratory animals," Kim said, his voice growing harder. "You are going to explain that we are not specimens to be collected and examined. We are not subjects for your research projects." The communication device connected to the Galactic Council's emergency channel. Kim spoke into it with the same calm authority he had shown throughout the ordeal. "Galactic Council, this is Lieutenant Kim Teho of Earth Command. I am currently aboard the research vessel that captured me for illegal experimentation. Dr. Vextan and his team are going to make a very important announcement about future relations with humanity." Dr. Vextan looked at Kim with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. He realized that the human could have killed them all easily, could have destroyed their ship and left them stranded in space. Instead, he was giving them a chance to learn from their mistakes. "Council members," Dr. Vextan said into the communicator, his voice shaking, "I must report that our understanding of human capabilities was completely incorrect. Their species possesses adaptive and survival traits that far exceed anything we have encountered before." Kim nodded approvingly and took over the transmission. "The next time any of your research vessels encounters a human ship, you will treat us as equals, not as specimens. You will request permission before conducting any studies." And you will remember that what you think might weaken us could very well make us stronger than you can imagine. He looked directly at Dr. Vextan as he delivered his final warning. Because the next human you try to capture might not be as patient and reasonable as I have been today. Some of my species are not nearly as forgiving as I am. The rescue ship from Earth Command arrived 6 hours later. As Kim prepared to leave, Dr. Vextan made the first entry in what will become the most important research document in Galactic Council history. Human Protocols, Entry 1, he wrote with trembling hands. Never assume human limitations mirror those of other species. What should kill them may only make them stronger. What should weaken them may enhance their capabilities beyond measurement. Approach with respect, never as predators approaching prey.